Happy Wednesday, guys. Welcome to WagerTalk TV, week 10 of the CFL season. Where has this season gone? We're already more than halfway through the season. There are some great games this past weekend and some really good games this weekend on 2 and Out, and we're looking forward to discussing them. Our insider, Rob Braley, is back, and we've got, of course, our Andrew McInnis, a CFL expert over at WagerTalk, fresh off a 5% winner, another 5% winner on the weekend. Andrew, congrats on that winner, my friend, and pretty good weekend of football. I normally start with Andrew talking about, hey, another win for the Toronto Argonauts, but now that streak came to an end. And I want to say, Andrew, I did not buy a Chad Kelly jersey, so I don't want to be blamed for the injury that he suffered this past weekend.
Carm, good to be here with you guys, man. You're looking nice and tan. I can tell you're having a good summer. We do have some people commenting below on the 2 and Out videos, and I swear one person said, I will blame Carm if Toronto's season goes down, and it's a good thing you didn't actually buy the jersey because that would have been on you, but yeah, Chad Kelly goes down. Looks like he'll be okay, though. But a great week of CFL in week 9. Cannot believe we are here in week 10 already. 5% winner last week. I have another one going this week for week 10. And some interesting lines to look at here. So looking forward to breaking things down.
Yeah, listen, he left the game sometime in the second quarter. Nobody knows when he got injured, but Argos coach Ryan Dinwiddie did say that he would be ready for week 10. Now, we're going to discuss that in the insider segment because I want to find out from Rob what he thinks might happen with as far as Chad Kelly goes, because the Argos have a bye week the following week. So it is a marathon, not a sprint. So you might want to protect your quarterback and give him a little extra time to mend whatever ails him. But Andrew, I want to get right into it. Market mover, and it's this game that goes on Sunday. So tell us what you got.
Well, Karma, it's a great intro to talk about Chad Kelly because, of course, he has been one of, if not the best quarterback this year in the Canadian Football League, probably alongside Zach Collaros for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But, of course, when you have a great quarterback, that's the position that moves the line the most in all football leagues. And you take a look at the number, we saw Toronto at one point were 10.5-point favorites. Immediately that number goes down to -4. Then we saw -4.5. But here's what's making me scratch my head. It looks like all reports are saying that he will be fine and Chad Kelly should be good to go. And let's keep in mind, their game is the last game of the week against Ottawa. It's a home game. It's on Sunday. I expect that number to climb back up. So if people out there are looking to bet on this Argos team after being handed their first loss of the season, I would jump on Toronto sooner than later. Now, if you think Ottawa can hang around, I would wait until closer to kickoff. If you want that underdog, wait to get that as last minute as possible to get the best price you possibly can. Now, if you like the over in this game, I'd bet that one now. If you like the under, well, I think that you can take a look and see that that's probably going to be raised up with the health of Chad Kelly. So this is one of those games, I think, out of a lot of the games this week that you really want to be tracking, want to be monitoring, and keeping an eye on those depth charts. And I feel like it's one that will be on the move, Carm. So anybody out there liking the Argos to bounce back, I know that they're your team, Carm, I would jump on them ASAP.
Yep, I tend to agree. That number, and we'll see it later on Inside the Numbers, Andrew. That line was at 3.5. It's down at some books, but I saw it at 3.5, and now, as of this morning, I see it at 4. So a little bit, and maybe that's people speculating on Chad Kelly starting and wanting to get the better number before any news drives it higher if he does start. We're going to bring in our insider now, Rob Braley. You can find him on Twitter at Rob_Braley. He's up at the cottage, so we're hoping the Wi-Fi is working correctly. I was a guest of a friend of mine up at the cottage in Muskoka, and I guess, Rob, you can say I was hanging with David Beckham and Victoria Beckham because they were in Muskoka this weekend as well. But I'm pretty sure they didn't make the drive to Muskoka. We saw quite a few planes landing on the water there, so I'm pretty sure that's how they made their way up. They were staying with the guy who played the role of Elvis Presley in the movie Elvis. So they were at his place for the weekend. It's a shame I didn't run into him. I wanted to see if I could get some of my messy cards autographed, but I digress. Let's go to you, Rob. Man, how was your weekend, and did you enjoy the CFL?
Yeah, the weekend was great up here. The weather was good. I watched pretty much all of every game on the CFL, so I think I learned quite a bit of what's going on. But like we're going to talk about now, the quarterback and the injury situation in the CFL is certainly adding up.
Yeah, and Rob, with that said, I want to get right to it. Is this one of those weeks where it's like buyer beware? Because we don't know who is in and who is out, and we talked about the Toronto Argos, and if you're speculating because you want to beat the line move, you're also speculating on what the news will be closer. Because I'm pretty sure that decision will not come down until late in the weekend, as Andrew mentioned. That game goes on Sunday. It's the final game of the CFL Week 10. Buyer beware. Are there any games? Would you take a chance with the quarterback uncertainties right now of even taking some of these games early, or do you know where you want to go?
Yeah, I'm definitely in a beware mode this week. I think in every single game this week there is a quarterback issue. Like we talked about Chad Kelly, he's got an ankle injury. It's not his decision. It's not up to the coach entirely. It's the coach, the doctor, the training staff. We're all going to evaluate it, and the answer is not going to come out till late. They're not going to tip their hat. But if he's not 100%, he's got 5 rushing touchdowns. I'm looking at a very conservative play calling with Chad Kelly this week. I don't think they're going to have him running the ball much, but he relies a lot on his feet to make room for throwing as well. So it should be interesting on the offense. The first game of the week is we got Mazzoli versus Trey Ford getting his first start of the year. And this is going to be a really interesting one. They just had a bye week, so they got a new quarterback and a new offensive coordinator, and they're still missing some weapons. I want to call Edmonton's receivers weapons, but Eugene Lewis, I believe, is still out. He hasn't practiced. So I think you're going to see Trey Ford in a lot of max protection type of situations where they bring an extra lineman in to help protect. And I think they're going to give him some plays downfield. I think he's going to put some yards up. The question is, can he finish in the end zone? So that game, to me, has a lot of variables, and it could be a letdown week for Winnipeg as well. So, I think it's what, at 12, -12 for Winnipeg.
Rob, I want to ask you about this, and I want to go back to the Argo one. I talked about the bye week next week. They've got a full week of practice with the game being on Sunday. Would you take a cautious approach with Chad Kelly and just give Cameron Duke all the reps this week in practice?
Yeah, you only lost one game, Carm. So, I haven't seen how Toronto rebounds off a loss yet. They're still a super talented football team all around. I think Ottawa's quarterback Crum, he played pretty good last week, but I think he's starting to show tendencies, and I think teams are learning how to defend him a little bit better. So I think you get Duke's a lot of first team reps, but I think you're going to want Chad Kelly to play if possible, right? So I think they're going to share the reps this week, and they'll probably have situations where Cameron Dukes comes up and runs a couple series just to give him a break. That's the way I would probably handle it.
All right, I'm going to bring Andrew in a second because I want to get his feedback on a couple things. But I want to talk to you about, you look at some of these moves or some of these lines when they come out, based on the previous week's games, and you start to wonder about overreaction on some of these numbers. Are they justified? Look at the BC Lions odds this week coming off that loss to Winnipeg, in which they allowed, I think it was 50 points in that game. That defense that has been solid all season long. Is this number justified, or is this an overreaction to last week?
Okay, I think we got BC at a 6.5 point favorite this week. They've played 5 road games. They're 3-2 on the road, but they're 3-0 at home. Calgary's 2-2 on the road. BC's only given up 28 points at home this year with a +4 point differential. They're winning at home every game by double digits. Calgary has a negative point differential on the road of -7, which isn't terrible. They're 2-2, so they've been playing some pretty close games. The last game they played was 25-10 in Calgary. Vernon Adams threw for 300 yards. They ran for 123 on the game for a 420-yard net offense against Calgary's 250. Last time BC came off a loss, they lost to Toronto, I think week 3 or 4. They came back and they beat them by 16 points. So I'm saying yes, 6.5 points is a justified number for this game.
All right. I like it. Andrew, I want to bring you in because I don't want to miss out on asking you about the quarterbacks as well, too. With these injuries we've seen throughout the season, thoughts on this weekend and the QB situations?
We've talked about injuries quite a bit this season here on 2 and Out and how it's impacted the league and the offenses. And really, we had 1 week where totals went 4-0. And then since then, it's been back to unders, in a lot of these games. But you take a look at the quarterbacks, and I think that it's important for some teams to really be diving in and looking at the depth of the quarterbacks. I mean, look at Dustin Crum. He's the third stringer on that team, seemingly being the best quarterback the Ottawa has had so far playing for them this year. So look at these depth charts, trying to find which guy is going to be there. But I feel like sometimes you can get a better number with that backup, or like I referenced earlier, if you think Chad Kelly is going to play, I would jump in on it now because that number will move once he is officially announced. So, a team like BC, you've got Dane Evans and Vernon Adams Jr. I believe Vernon Adams is taking the first team reps now in practice, but I still like Dane Evans. But the fact of the matter is the market likes Vernon Adams Jr. a lot more. So if you already liked BC, you want to get in on them with the idea that Dane Evans is there. And then once they start putting these tweets out and all these sources start talking about VA, then the number moves. So it's important for people out there to be watching things. And I'm not saying try and always get ahead of things, but if you already like a wager, try and make that bet before the market reacts. But looking at these depth charts and trying to react is the best way moving forward. Because guess what? Not all backups are going to be worse. We've seen it across the league so far. Sometimes these newer players, these guys coming in, will make a difference. And I'm curious what happens with Edmonton this week and Trey Ford.
All right. Andrew McInnis, you can find him on Twitter at McInnis Picks, and of course over at WagerTalk, where he releases just winner after winner in the CFL. Rob, Andrew, this is an open question to the both of you guys. In talking about like coaching changes and play calling changes, are we seeing more of that as we got into like week 9 last week and heading into this week's 4-game slate?
You go ahead, Rob.
Well, okay. Well, I definitely saw Winnipeg without new coaches and new quarterbacks. They definitely adjusted their play calling against BC. They went very conservative with pass protection. BC could not get to the quarterback last week. I think they learned a lesson there the first time, letting up all those 7 sacks in the game. So they certainly learned how to protect the quarterback, and I think you're going to see Edmonton doing the exact same thing this week. They're going to try and protect the quarterback, give Trey Ford as much time as he can to find his receivers. Manny Arsenal's back this week. Mitchell's still there, so he's got some people to throw the ball to, and I think he's going to make some plays. It's just whether he can close it out or not. And the other issue, they don't play this week, unfortunately. Shouldn't really talk about them until next week. Is Tommy Condell, the offensive coordinator for Hamilton, has been they parted ways, let's say it. So he's gone, and Smilanovich is now going to be calling the plays there, and I think you're going to see a whole different set of plays being called there as well.
Yeah, so
right,
I noticed the same
Rob.
thing, and
Go ahead, Andrew.
Sorry, Carm, you're seeing the change there with Hamilton, and of course, like Rob mentioned, they aren't playing this week, but then you're seeing it with Edmonton coming out of a bye week. I think that realistically in the CFL, when you make these sudden changes, A lot of times in other leagues, maybe I'd be more hesitant to expect a big difference, but in the CFL, they made that change for a reason. So I expect Edmonton to be taking a little more chances, taking some more risks, making some more bigger plays. As far as Hamilton's concerned, I would say, being a little bit more smart with the football, but it's interesting. And I think it's important to read those blogs. Follow me on Twitter and Rob as well for some updates across the league on this. But here we are, week 10. This is a time where those coaching changes start to happen, whether it's at the OC position, DC, or just the head coach. Some changes are starting to happen. It's interesting to see how these coaches will react and how the players will react. But I think it'll be in a positive manner for both Edmonton and Hamilton.
All right, good stuff. Andrew, I'm going to throw one back at you, and then I want Rob to chime in on this one as well, too. You look at the numbers, and we'll have that up on the screen shortly in the inside the number section. But the totals this week range from 41.5 up to 45.5. But one of the highest totals at 45 is the Edmonton Elks Winnipeg Blue Bombers game, and this is a team, the Elks, that you stated have stayed under the total in 6 of 8 games this season. Andrew, reactionary line to the Blue Bombers?
Well, of course, in this one, if the total's going over, the three of us all know that one team is probably carrying the load of the total and pushing it over mostly on their own. But like I just mentioned, you don't want to overreact too much, but coming out of a bye week, having a new quarterback starting and a new offensive coordinator, you should expect some things to change. And with so many things going wrong, 21 straight home losses for the Edmonton Elks, it was time for some change to be made. And they're getting a little bit healthier as well. I think that their defense won't get much better, Carm, but I think their offense can improve. I've been waiting for Trey Ford to get his opportunity. I believe he will be the number one and stay there for the Edmonton Elks. And he can make plays on his feet. He can escape the pocket. He's a mobile quarterback, and he does have experience. When he's been out there, I think he has been successful. So I think we could start seeing the tides turn for the Edmonton Elks as far as their totals are concerned. To me, you look at this Winnipeg team, they're a team that brings it. And Buck Pearson and his offense, we saw it last week against BC. They do not take their foot off your throat. They will just keep it there all game long. They want to run the score up on you. They scored 50 points last week. That game was over after the first quarter, and they just kept on going. So I think the tides could turn this week for the Elks as far as the total is concerned.
Yeah, Rob,
I gotta agree with you.
Rebuttal, does the tide turn for this Elks team, Rob?
Not this week. The biggest problem is they have the worst run defense in all of football, and Olivieri and crew are going to run the ball down their throats all day long. I don't know if O'Shea is going to really run the score up on Edmonton if he's got a 2-touchdown lead. I mean, every game that Edmonton plays, I mean, they've played 8 games. They only scored 105 points in total. They're not going to get their points, so he's going to have to score probably in the 30s, and they're more than capable of scoring in the 30s to put this game over. But I think these Edmonton games only average less than 40 points a game, so I'm not taking the over in this game. I'm going to wait and see what happens here.
All right. Rob, flying the W on that hat. I'm not sure if that's W for Wager Talk, W for another win, or
win,
just,
baby.
Well, it's not a W for the Toronto Argonauts, at least not last weekend, but I digress. We'll get back in the win column on Sunday, I hope. Andrew, let's look at inside the numbers. We'll have a look at the odds. These were as of last night in the CFL, 4 games. Anything that grabbed you right off the bat?
Yeah, take a look at these numbers, Karma. We'll just run through them really quick. We've got the Elks, as we talked about, home dogs here. As expected, 12-point underdogs. We've got the Saskatchewan Roughriders on the road. Montreal, they are laying 4.5 points now, total 44.5. Calgary, they are 6.5 road underdogs in BC. And the last game in the week, as we have discussed, the Toronto and Ottawa game line currently sits at -4 or 4.5. Lowest total on the board is the Ottawa and Toronto one at 41.5. And as you stated, we have two totals in the 45/45.5 range, that being the Calgary and BC game and the first game of the week with Winnipeg and Edmonton. I always reference this, and I will continue to remind people, make sure you are checking these lines the second they are out, whether it be Sunday night, Monday morning, Monday afternoon. And then when you're watching this show with us right now and you're checking things out, make sure you ask yourself, what could I have bet earlier, or what should I have waited to bet? And I think it's really important in the CFL. One thing I always push about this league, in the NFL, you're going to hear people in a few weeks talking about a big line move. That's going to be nothing compared to what the CFL sees as far as line movements are concerned. So as far as this Winnipeg number is concerned, I feel like as far as Winnipeg goes, it could only get higher for them. But I do agree with Rob. It could be kind of a decent spot there for Edmonton, maybe to hang around after Winnipeg got that big win last week. The Alouettes and Rough Riders one is one to watch here, guys, because Cody Fajardo, he's banged up. William Stanback is banged up, but they're laying 4.5 against the visiting Rough Riders. As far as these numbers are concerned, make sure you keep an eye on them. Go to the WagerTalk live odds page and follow all the movement in the CFL.
Andrew McInnis, our number one expert over at WagerTalk in CFL. He's got a 5% play up for this weekend. You can get $15 off that play with the code CFL15. So CFL15, grab that play. And, Andrew, while you were talking, I came to the conclusion, I know why Rob is wearing the W on his hat. It is for this segment right here, which is the extra point. Tell us what you got.
Yeah, Carm, I'm super pumped about the 5% play this weekend. But here's the free play of the week here for CFL 2 and out. And I am avoiding the full game total in this one, but I'm going to go with the first half over 21.5, first game of the week, Winnipeg and Edmonton. Winnipeg's offense is looking smooth as ever right now. They're looking in mid-season form. I should say perfect playoff form, really, with how they're playing. Every single spot, every single play they're making seems to be a 30, 40-yard play downfield, and they are connecting every single time. Talk about the great run game they can mix in, great special teams. Now you have Edmonton off a bye, mixing things up with their coordinators, throwing a new quarterback into the mix. I think if there was ever a week for us to see some type of momentum as far as Edmonton's offense is concerned, it will be this week. Winnipeg's defense hasn't even been all that great on a large scale this season. Their offense has been really consistent, though. And I think in the first half, that's when you'll see the scores really fly. We'll see a lot of touchdowns. And I'm choosing the first half because I am worried that if Winnipeg gets a big lead, they might run that ball out, run the clock out in the second half. So the full game could stay under, but I expect points in the first half.
All right, first half points with the Blue Bombers. That's where the W comes from, Rob. I know that's where the W comes from. Rob, listen, I appreciate you coming on the show in the Insider segment. I know you're up north where the Wi-Fi can be a little shaky at the best of times. So I do appreciate you coming in. You can follow Rob on Twitter at Rob_Braley. And of course, Andrew at McInnis Picks, myself at Carmine Bianco WT. We'll throw in a little bit of European football and or soccer, as you call it. World Cup still going on, Leagues Cup going on, quarterfinals action. And I've got a 5% play up on Saturday, 3-0 with 5% plays in the World Cup. We'll look to make it 4-0 this weekend. So find that over at WagerTalk on my page. Guys, we're going to be back next week, week 11. We'll discuss what we discussed on today's show to see how our predictions or how their predictions came out. But for myself, Andrew McInnis, and Rob Braley, this is 2 and Out. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and good luck with your wagers this weekend.